So, thank you for coming in,
Mm-hmm.
or I suppose allowing me to come in today
Yeah.
and speak with you.
Yep.
I understand that you've been planning to make kind of a change in your life in the past couple weeks. I was hoping you could tell me a little bit about that and what that's been like.
Yeah. Pretty much, I've always known, the goal of my life is to get to a place where I'm comfortable with myself
Mm-hmm.
and comfortable with the things that happen to me, and I'm able to deal with the stress in life in healthy ways. And throughout my life, I've realized that I've learned really unhealthy ways to get rid of the stress or whatever, and it goes a lot with ignoring things and just putting things off to tomorrow, and lots of procrastination. And I've learned this because I like it when I have free time, and I feel like the things in my life with school that require me to focus without anybody really looking over my shoulder. I don't have a problem with work or anything. I love to work, but with school it's hard to be focused all the time, and I've always put things off to last minute until they come crashing down on me, and then at that point is when I reach out for help or just try to do it on my own without anybody knowing. And this type of mentality that's had me, create is that I'm unique. I'm unique in the way I think, and I think a lot of it has to do with being an intelligent person and thinking all the time and feeling like you're a smart person. So all the decisions you make are smart. But there are things that we do that are self-destructive, and everybody has them, and I think it's important to know what those are. And throughout the past few weeks, things have gotten really hard because of a friend who was the same age as me that died suddenly, and having to deal with that and not really knowing, what all that meant. At the time, I remember telling you that I thought it would all be a good thing in the end, but I wasn't sure how that would play out. But really, initially what it made me do was fear death or just live like I would want to live because you don't know when you're going to die, type of mentality. And what that turned into was realizing that life is short and that you don't have as much time as you think to be the person you want to be. And a lot of people search for things to make them happy and to fulfill their goals, but never really question whether or not the way they think they'll get happiness is the real way that it happens. And just from my closing off people, from letting people inside, because I'm worried about what they'll think, or things like that. It's really easy to get into all that, especially at Calvin, where appearance seems to be favored above substance. But I realized that once I had an attitude change and I started looking at things differently, and that going to class and doing my homework is not in itself something that is enjoyable, but the relief I get from doing the things that I need to do and getting them done allows me to release the stress in a good way, in a way that it's like, I know this is going to stress me out later, so I'm going to do it now. And it's always been hard for me to do that until all the stress in my life of, fear, like graduation, or trying to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life, and finishing up school and realizing that after I'm done with school that I have to make a change in my life, because it's not the way that I would like it to be, and I don't want to graduate, which is a huge thing for me to move on in life, and I want to finish off with a good head on my shoulders, and so that I know after it happens that I can, take on anything. Which I realize that I have a lot of potential, and that the things in my life that the decisions I've been making have been holding me back more than letting those things develop. And I've been okay with that for a while, but knowing that I want I want great things to happen in my life because, you know, who knows, it could be the last. And I just want I want to be satisfied with the job I've done and the things I've done and the people around me. And that's another thing, just closing myself off. My relationships have gotten really messed up, including within my family, and especially with girls, having to relate to girls, not letting them in all the way. It always seems like you're hiding something, and it's kind of a really strange thing because it's not really enjoyable. It's enjoyable to talk to girls and to realize that they can be interested in me, but not ever letting someone in enough that to let myself get hurt. And I'm sure that's had to do with past things I've dealt with girls. So that's understandable. I think that's a really major thing that men can get messed up about, and so I'm not ashamed about that. It's just there are ways of thinking, and it just has to do with the perspective. And the switch happened really late one night. I couldn't get to sleep, and I was just so stressed out about everything, and I wasn't letting anybody know what was happening because I was afraid to let them know that I'm not Superman. I feel like I expect myself to be a strong person for other people too, and that it's okay to ask for help. I didn't know that, and just letting people know what's been happening and that I'm making changes in my life to make that differently, and that just has to do with an attitude change and just getting things done and letting people in. And I've noticed right off the bat when I talk to people, I have people respect me more, and they can open up to me as well. And I think that that's a gift that I didn't know I had until I just stopped looking at all the messed up things in the world, because there's a lot of them, and just focusing on the good things in my life, because I do have so many advantages that most people don't have. So for me to be cynical about my situation is just really foolish, and it's not. I don't want to have that going on in my head for the rest of my life. I want to be happy, and I realized it wasn't possible once my friend died and all the stress was happening. I just realized the way you've been living your life does not allow you to deal with these situations in a healthy way.
Right.
And instead of just ignoring the problem to make a change, and so that's pretty much where I'm at.
So it sounds like you've kind of, on a very broad level, for a long time, you've kind of, I feel like you've almost, you've known you've had this like potential to be this kind of ideal person almost, in that you can do it.
Yeah.
But you've almost procrastinated doing that. Like you said, you feel like you procrastinate a lot of things, but that your friend's death was almost an awakening to the fact that you don't have forever to do that. You need to do that now, that there's no time other than today. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it was just, it's convenient that tomorrow never comes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So at a certain point, I've been thinking about things forever and just realizing that things are not how I would want them to be, and I've been, wallowing in that almost. Just not expecting much from people, and just relying on myself, and just closing myself off to really the important things in life. And I always knew I would get to a point, and I didn't ever know what that would look like. And I'm glad I had the years of questioning that I've had and experiencing a life that is not worth living, so that I know I'm not tempted by it ever again.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I never went through that, at a certain point in my life, it would happen, where I would, I'm glad of the questioning I've had and the experience that I've had through it, and I've developed a lot of good friendships through it, and I just realized everybody at some point either comes to this realization or doesn't.
Yeah.
And I've noticed a lot of people in their lives that have done it, but there's always a reason for doing it, and I just never had a solid reason